Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll be looking at the stories that are shaping the agenda for you today. Let's kick off with this day newspaper. This morning, general headlines across Nigerian papers include national politics, economic stories, sports achievements, security matters, and general societal concerns. This day fronts Governor of Kaduna State, Sani, giving his word that his state will re-elect President Bola Tinubu based on the level of projects being implemented in Kaduna State specifically and nationwide. African Ministers of Minerals re-elect Minister of Solid Minerals Dele Alake as African Minerals Strategy Group Chair. And Greenland, EU states hold emergency meeting over Trump's 10% tariff threat. Daily Sun front page opens with the International Monetary Fund providing a recipe for job losses in Nigeria, advising workers to acquire additional skills. Daily Independent turns attention to the banking sector, where recapitalization efforts is redefining that sector. In Rivers, Sergei Udeze others asked President Tinubu to intervene, and DG of Tinubu's media team, Owolemi, abducted in Ondo State. The Guardian leads with anxiety over new capital requirements in the capital market. The federal government says it plans to inject 30 billion naira in 74 universities, and the government has also banned mining activities within 10-kilometer radius of bridges nationwide. Leadership focuses on London property scandal, with the Nigerian Bar Association reacting to forgery charges against Mike Ezekome by the federal government. We also have that story on the Nigerian capital market, where the operators are describing these new capital requirements as the highest in the world, and they are warning that it risks wiping out brokers. New Telegraph reflects on the precision airstrike by Nigerian Air Force, reporting that 40 terrorists were killed in Borno, as Amoteku raises the alarm over influx of northerners in Ondo State. On the new tax laws, Fitch warns that weak governance and other factors may hinder implementation. Vanguard leads with Sim Fubara declaring that he is still governor of Rivers State as he regrets current crisis. African Democratic Congress asked the federal government to come clean on the Nigeria-US Health Pact. The Punch writes about importers that have outrun domestic refiners with 62% fuel supply in 2025. Moving on to the international headlines, let's begin with the Times. Most UK national dailies are leading with tensions in UK-US/EU trade after US President Donald Trump threatened 10% tariffs in countries opposing his bid to control Greenland. British leaders are scrambling to manage the fallout. And Prime Minister Keir Starmer here warns this dispute could damage transatlantic trade ties and NATO cohesion, as well as lead to a downward spiral. The government is coordinating with EU allies on possible responses. The I newspaper this morning, Daily Mirror, Daily Mail, Daily Express, Guardian, and Financial Times all put this front page or this story on their front page, and they see it as front and centric, with variations across the papers. You know, there are those talking about trade impacts, about diplomatic pressure, and EU retaliation plans. Financial Times specifically highlights that Brussels is preparing 93 billion euros in retaliatory efforts or tariffs on US goods as leverage ahead of the Davos summit. Some papers adopt more soft news. For instance, let's go to metro.co.uk. It's talking about a workplace future about employees keeping tea breaks and calls to normalize breaks for well-being. Now, let's break down what these stories mean for everyday people. Returning to this day newspaper. This day again talks about Governor Sani of Kaduna State giving his word that Kaduna will elect President Bola Tinubu again. He talks about the projects that have been attracted to his state as the basis for that stance. On his part, Senate President Godswill Akpabio notes that he's focused on helping the president succeed because if he succeeds, then Nigeria will thrive. While Gbenga Olawokpo says APC will be voted out in 2027. Benga, let me start with you. Sani is a Tinubu man, isn't he? Unwavering support for the president.
Yeah, I think just about 2 weeks ago, setting forth into the new year, we did outline how the political landscape will define the roadmap towards 2027 elections. And we're going to see a lot of alignments, realignments, horse trading, and all whatnots in the build-up to the 2027 election. And I think the writing on the wall is beginning to get clearer. The crystal ball is lighting up, and we are seeing a clearer, defining interest and strong stance towards the political future of major political gladiators. You recall that Kaduna State is also one of the major states in the Northwest that holds this political ace when it comes to the race towards presidential election. Is one after Kano, you can count on Kaduna State as that powerhouse. So you also it also comes with this antecedent of a political rivalry between the incumbents and the his predecessor in person of Malam Nasser El-Rufai. So he needs to show, he needs to clearly define where he stands in show of alliance, political alliance towards President Bola Tinubu. And this also shows that the race towards the 2027 election has started without the umpire blowing the whistle. So campaigns have started in guise of events, declarations, and many other things. So that's what we're seeing now. And more will be coming up. And you can just think about what's happening in Rivers State. So to understand the tidings and the undercurrents that is fueling many of these declarations.
I didn't get what you said when you said, was it Nasir El-Rufai has to declare his stance?
No. I mean Governor Sani had to declare his stance, knowing fully well that it's a state that has an undercurrent of political rivalry.
Right. I mean, both men, Governor Sani and President Bola Tinubu, go way back. During the days of the struggle against military dictatorship in Nigeria. So Sani was an advocate, was a student activist, and later when he left school, he continued on that trajectory. President Bola Tinubu was also known as one of those who fought against military rule. He was one of those who went into exile in order not to be killed. Or,
days of Nadeko struggle.
Exactly, days of Nadeko struggle. Although some will say that he wasn't exactly one of the leading figures of Nadeko, whatever you believe. What happens now, what is happening is that Governor Sani sees President Tinubu as the only person who can win the 2027 elections, given the incumbency factor, given what he says is the projects that he has implemented, across the country. Although some northern leaders would say or have been against the president because they feel like that they are losing in the political equation and puzzle, and the northern part of the country is falling apart in terms of unity. However, Sani thinks that it's better for the president to finish his 8-year term so that in 2031 the power returns to that part of the country. And of course, a lot of them, they are still in their 50s. He's probably 54, I think, or 53. So they are also interested, or maybe interested, in the presidency from 2031. So that's what we're seeing at the moment. No surprises there from Sani. And like you said, the umpire has not said campaigns are to be started, but the campaign has started. The alignments are going on, the realignments are going on behind closed doors in every state of the federation and within the parties as well. All right, we'll be hearing more, I think, from that angle every day. Let's go to another story in Leadership newspaper, London property scandal. The NBA committee reacts as federal government charges Ezekome with forgery. The Nigerian Bar Association Anti-Corruption Committee has described the 3-count criminal charge filed against human rights lawyer Mike Ezekome's son by the Independent and Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission as a welcome development. This gives Ezekome an opportunity to defend himself and to clear his name. This means that the ICPC will have to prove these charges beyond reasonable doubt, according to the NBA. Yolanda, let me take you up here. How do you see what is happening here? Because Ezekome is a public figure that is well known as someone who leads anti-corruption, human rights in the country. And this right here is quite damaging.
It's extremely damaging. And what I'm hoping for, which is also one of the reactions that came out from this report, is that it's important that once all the media, attention dies down and everybody stops talking about it, hopefully this story will be taken up in the way that it's meant to be, because the credibility of the Nigerian legal sector is very highly at stake at the moment. And just as you rightly said, this is a big, well-known name. But some of the points I want to point out here are the counts that were put up against him. The first, there's 3 of them: directly receiving the London property in August of 2021, making a false Nigerian passport bearing the name Sani Tali, and third of all, dishonestly using the allegedly false passport to support property ownership claims. So with this, so many questions arise out of this. How was this false passport, gotten in the first place? These are all the things that need to be looked into. It's also stated in the report that operators have until June 30th of 2027 to comply with these new requirements. And I feel like that's a bit of a long time for a case of this magnitude. It should be shorter, This should be brought to book almost immediately. It's very unfortunate that this is happening. As we already said, a big name that is caused so much havoc in this scandal. But I believe that the tribunal in London already ruled, and it was also ascertained that the former Minister of the FCT, Lieutenant General Jeremiah Useni, was actually the original and genuine purchaser of this said property in 1993.
Okay.
Wait, go ahead.
Okay, I think I would like to look at this issue from 2 different dimensions. One,
sure,
from the surface counts charge, which borders on false information presentation, use of forged documents, and
yes,
attempting to deceive public authority. But on the, it looks like an issue that has a lot of things packed underneath that comes with a lot of underlying factors. Once you look at the antecedents of Ezekome as a leading opposition figure in Nigerian politics. He's been one of those that have spoken truth to power, that have challenged authorities consistently. So now it gives a caption of one of the last men standing in the political opposition to President Tinubu. And now the conduct, which I've often frowned at by prosecution authorities, the EFCC, the ICPC, is this syndrome of media trial and the trial of prosecution. Ezekome, I want to believe he's not on the run. He has not been declared wanted. So I think that before going to the media with this, we should have been given the opportunity to hear from from Barrister Ezekome, SAN, to also present his own side of the story. Because like the NBA said, the burden is on the federal government to prove that indeed Ezekome perpetrated these 3 count charges.
All right. Well, that is, I mean, the report here is just sharing the charges against him. If there are charges against, whether it's a public figure or ordinary Nigerian, in relation to fraud, it will be reported in the media, and that's just what is reported here. However, it's also one of the reasons why the NBA says that it hopes that this trial will be unbiased, and that he hopes that the culture of impunity will be challenged in Nigeria through this kind of trials.
Yes. I was only pointing out why they are quick to rush out. Now, we could understand the kind of character assassination that comes with this kind of media trial. Right. We cannot deny that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is profoundly damaging to his person. At the same time, he will have his day in court, as we have seen here. That's right. However, I think it also highlights the broader topic of the credibility of public officers in relation to forged documents, forgery of documents is quite common in Nigeria.
Indeed.
It's not only lawyers. When you go to universities, you go to political office holders, even in civil service. A lot of people forge their documents. If they are caught, fine, they pay for it. If they are not caught, they get away with it. So it talks about professional ethics, you know, long-standing role of people as leaders in society, and how that affects, you know, the culture. People think that they can do anything and get away with it. Not judging Mike Ozekome, he would definitely have to go to court and defend himself, and that's what we'll be seeing from this case. Daily Independent, very quickly, Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project sues Governor Wike and other governors over failure to account for security votes. The organization says governors and the FCT minister have refused to provide details of how billions of naira of security votes have been utilized since 2023. That it's demanding this information because of the frequent massacres and high level of insecurity, in spite of the fact that 400 billion naira has been voted for insecurity or for security in the country. That's a fair ask, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a fair ask. I think that's a good report as well. And, you know, Serap also stated that the failure by state governors and FCT ministers to disclose security vote spending is a grave violation of public trust. And I think that's a nice way to put it. Nigeria has been under fire for the past couple of months with increasing, you know, rates of terrorism, banditry, kidnapping. So where are all these resources going to?
I think just to quickly chip in, when we talk of democracy, it makes no sense if we don't put it in a full context. Because when the Protocol of Democracy was signed in Dakar 2001, it was the Protocol of Democracy, Election and Good Governance. So when we don't have that institution that will preserve the cardinal virtues of democracy, which is accountability, the transparency, and the rule of law, then we cannot get the best when we don't have the efficient functionality of democratic institutions in place. Now these governors get allocations for security votes, but there are no institutions to drive it. So this underscores the renewed call for state policing, where those funds can be channeled properly and we get the results that accounts for the allocation of the security votes and the continued widespread killings and insecurity in the country.
We have two more stories. We don't have time to discuss them, but I'll just read them out. Leadership newspapers, operators decry Securities Commission new capital requirements. They say is the highest in the world. And to the international headlines, Greenland and the debate over its future. It's a developing story that is, you know, gradually ratcheting up. The latest being those sanctions by the US president and the Europeans standing their ground. There have been coordinated military exercise in Greenland as Trump slammed those tariffs. We're going to be seeing more from that story.
Indeed.
Those were your headlines for today.
Unfortunately, too much to chew with not enough time. Hopefully, Dr. Constance, you'll take us through more of those tomorrow.